Here's something most people don't know about steel. It conducts heat 400 times faster than wood. 400 times. Which means a truck cab with no heating system running reaches outside temperature in under 45 minutes. Now put that truck in northern Minnesota in January. Minus 40 degrees outside. And somewhere in that cab, a driver is not just surviving, he's sleeping. Not because he has no choice, because he's got something most people drive past every day without ever noticing. And once you understand what it is and how it works, you'll never look at a parked truck the same way again. Before we get to the technology, there's a question that needs answering first. Because when people see a truck stop at 2 in the morning, rows of dark cabs, snow on the ground, a hotel sign glowing across the street, the obvious question is, why doesn't the driver just go check in? The answer isn't what most people assume. It isn't money. A long-haul driver in the U.S. earns between $60,000 and $80,000 a year. A hotel room is $100. That's not the problem. The first reason is physical. A fully loaded semi with trailer runs between 25 and 30 meters long. Hotel parking lots are built for cars. There's no entrance wide enough, no space long enough. The truck dictates where the driver sleeps, and the truck isn't fitting in that parking lot. The second reason is legal. A long-haul driver carries an average of 40,000 pounds of freight. Electronics, food, medication, industrial equipment. Under federal law, the driver is personally responsible for that cargo at every minute of the trip, including rest periods. Leaving a trailer unattended in an unsecured location violates most freight contracts and can void the insurance entirely. He can't just walk away from it. But here's what makes this interesting. Even if the parking worked out and the cargo issue didn't exist, most experienced cold weather drivers still wouldn't go, because what's inside that cab in winter is genuinely impressive. And it starts with a problem that most people have never thought about. Steel loses heat faster than almost any other building material. A truck cab is essentially a steel box. Without any heating running, the interior temperature tracks toward outside temperature within the hour. At minus 40, that isn't uncomfortable. That's medically dangerous. Exposed skin freezes in under 10 minutes at that temperature. An unprotected person in an unheated steel box faces a genuine survival situation within the hour. So the obvious solution is simple. Leave the engine running. The engine produces heat. Problem solved. Except it isn't that simple. In most American and Canadian cities, truck drivers are legally prohibited from leaving their engine running overnight. Anti-idling laws introduced to reduce emissions in populated areas carry fines of up to $25,000 for violations. Running the engine all night also burns between $30 and $50 in diesel fuel every single night. For a driver on the road 300 nights a year, that's up to $15,000 a year just to stay warm. So the industry had a very specific engineering problem. A metal box that loses heat faster than almost any other material, and a law that makes the most obvious solution expensive and illegal. What engineers came up with to solve it is one of the most underrated pieces of technology on the road today. Most people drive past it every day. It's been standard equipment on long-haul trucks for decades, and almost nobody outside the industry knows it exists. Here's how it works, and what happens when it fails at 3 in the morning in the middle of nowhere. Inside the frame of almost every modern long-haul truck sits a device roughly the size of a shoebox. It has its own fuel line connected directly to the diesel tank, its own ignition system, its own thermostat, and it runs completely independently from the main engine. It's called a diesel bunk heater. Brands like Webasto and Espar have been building them for decades, originally for military vehicles and aircraft before they became standard equipment on commercial trucks operating in cold climates. The bunk heater burns a fraction of the fuel a running engine would, typically less than a quarter gallon per hour, while generating enough heat to keep the cab at a comfortable sleeping temperature regardless of what's happening outside. It kicks on automatically when the cab temperature drops below a set threshold, runs silently, and shuts off when the temperature comes back up. The driver sleeps through the whole cycle, but the bunk heater is just the foundation, because modern long-haul trucks carry something more advanced. A system that doesn't just heat the cab, but turns it into a fully self-sufficient living space at -40. It's called an APU, an auxiliary power unit, and the name undersells what it actually does. An APU is a second engine mounted to the frame of the truck. It has its own fuel supply, its own cooling system, and its own electrical output. It runs independently from the main engine and can power virtually everything inside the cab simultaneously. The heating and air conditioning, the refrigerator, the television, the charging ports, the CPAP machine, everything. A well-equipped sleeper cab running an APU in a Minnesota winter isn't a survival situation. It's a controlled environment. The driver adjusts the thermostat the same way you'd adjust your bedroom before bed, sets it to 68 degrees and goes to sleep. The APU handles the rest. But here's the question that matters. What happens when it fails? It's 3 in the morning. You're parked at a rest stop in northern Minnesota. Outside, it's -38. The nearest truck stop is 40 miles away, and you wake up cold. You check the heater panel. Nothing. The bunk heater stopped. You check the APU. Also dead. The cab temperature is already dropping, roughly 1 degree per minute in that kind of cold. Within 20 minutes, it'll be -15 inside. Within an hour, significantly worse. This is not hypothetical. Every experienced cold weather driver has a contingency plan for exactly this scenario. The first line of defense is an emergency diesel heater, a backup unit small enough to fit in a storage compartment. The second is knowledge of exactly where the nearest running truck stop is before shutting down for the night. The third is the rule that every cold weather driver knows before anything else. Never leave the cab in extreme cold without a plan to get back in. Because outside, even for 5 minutes, the cold does not negotiate. Surviving -40 in a truck cab doesn't start when the temperature drops. It starts weeks before, with a checklist that addresses problems most people have never considered. The first is the fuel itself. At -20, diesel begins to gel. The wax crystals that form inside untreated diesel block fuel filters and fuel lines, shutting down the main engine and the bunk heater at exactly the same moment. The solution is an anti-gel additive poured directly into the tank before temperatures drop. Every experienced cold weather driver carries it as standard. The second is the battery system. Cold cuts battery capacity significantly. At -40, a standard truck battery delivers less than 40% of its rated power. A truck running an APU and full cab electronics overnight needs up to 8 batteries, double the standard setup, just to make it through a single night without the system cutting out. The third is tire pressure. Tire pressure drops by approximately 1 psi for every 6 degrees of temperature decrease. At -40, an unmonitored tire can lose up to 15 psi. On an icy road at highway speed, that's not a maintenance inconvenience. It's a safety emergency. And the fourth is something as simple as a curtain. Thermal insulated curtains between the cab and the sleeper reduce heat loss by up to 60%. They cost around $50. At -40, they're the difference between the heater running for 4 hours or 8. There's a detail in all of this that most people find genuinely surprising. Ask a driver who has spent a winter night at -40 in a properly prepared cab whether they'd rather have been in a hotel. Most of them say no. The reasons make sense when you think about it. No footsteps through the walls, no doors slamming down a corridor. At -40, the world outside goes quiet in a way that doesn't exist in any hotel room on any highway in America. Just the soft hum of a bunk heater doing its job. The technology that makes it possible, the bunk heater, the APU, the battery bank, the anti-gel additives. All of it exists specifically because a truck cab in extreme cold is a solvable engineering problem. And the trucking industry solved it. Next time you pass a row of dark cabs in a winter truck stop, you're not looking at drivers who couldn't get to a hotel. You're looking at a self-sufficient mobile shelter system running quietly through the night, keeping everything warm, keeping everything ready, and keeping the supply chain moving while everyone else is asleep. If you learned something today that most people never knew existed, subscribe. There's a lot more on this channel that'll change the way you look at the trucks on the road around you.